Welcome everyone to AtariCade 5200, a division of this Atari Super Community Podcast. Today we'll be talking about the awesome port of Tempest to the 5200. As always, we have Mighty Matt D.
Hello everyone.
We have Michael, closure of windows.
How you doing, guys?
And we have Rick, the drunk.
Wait, hold on. Wow. I am sipping a delicious rum, but I would argue that I am not drunk.
As far as you know. Anyway.
True.
Well, it's been a while since we've recorded. I think it was back in October when we did Robotron. So
yeah, I think that's right.
It's been quite a while. A lot of stuff happening. Now, before
that was just you and Matt.
Yeah, that was just me and Matt. We were dissed, man. Anyway. Did any of you get to try that Bosconian port on the 5200?
I did. I thought it was pretty excellent. Very impressive.
Did you get to try it, Michael?
No, unfortunately I have not.
Oh, it's awesome, dude. How about you, Rick?
No, I don't think I knew about it. Is it a ROM in like the Atari Age Dev thing, or is it on card or anything?
No. It's a ROM you could download, put on your Atari Max. Came out in December, man. Where you been?
I missed it. What can I say? I've been sick for like a month.
Oh my gosh! I know somebody who doesn't look at the 5200 Super Community page.
That's probably true.
It was posted on there.
I missed it. I'm sorry, Willie.
You drunk.
One day
oh my gosh.
One game I did get to play was Sinistar.
Ooh.
The Sinistar cart at the Atari Party East back in September. Boy, what a great port that is.
Now, how was the Atari Party?
Oh, it was great. It was really good. Really good turnout. Seemed like a lot more games were out. And, just a blast. I mean, it's going back in September. I'm trying to remember now. But, yeah, I brought my 5200 multi-cart. Ferg was there. And, yeah, it was a good time.
Awesome. That's cool. What have you been doing lately, Mr. Reynolds, besides drinking?
I have been, unfortunately, very sick for about a month, and it's left me out of retro things. But prior to that, basically, your Boy Scout stuff, and I'm trying to think if I had any interesting retro stuff. I did some work on some of my retro systems, like the Raspberry Pi systems.
Yeah.
So on the last, there was a Boy Scout camp out that was in a cabin, and they let us bring video games with us. And so I brought one of my RetroPie systems and was definitely playing the new 7800 Baby Pac-Man on that. Yeah, I was able to map the controller of the PS3 controller I use for a USB controller with the Pi. I was able to map the shoulder buttons to the left and right buttons of the 7800 Pro line, so that
Excellent.
It feels like a real proper pinball, with those things. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to pull that up, and it's funny because you pull up these older games and these Boy Scouts are like, what is that? What is that? They want to know. They want to know. Of course, I brought out these. I had two little systems. I brought the CollectorVision Phoenix, and I brought a Raspberry Pi system. And I was trying to explain the difference between like a FPGA and emulation, and they were just kind of like looking at me. So
their eyes glaze over when you talk about all that.
They're like, "Hey, Timmy, just ignore him. He's drunk."
Yeah. There's no drinking at the Boy Scout stuff. Anyway, there were a couple of kids that were quite interested, and other kids that were just kind of like whatever. And so I got to play various games there, but definitely had some Atari stuff going on with my retro system there. That Baby Pac-Man is fun, really really fun.
Cool. Did you make it to Portland Retro Gaming Expo this year?
Up at Portland?
Yeah.
Did you say? No, I didn't make it this year. I'm hoping
did.
I'm hoping to make it in 2020 here.
Awesome. How about you, Matt? What have you been up to?
Well, I did go to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
You're the one that went.
Yeah, I'm the one that went. Got you guys all that stuff that you needed. So,
oh, yeah.
The Baby Pac-Mans and What did you get, Rick, for the Intellivision? The Electronite game, the Defender of the Crown.
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he picked me up the Wizards of War port from Champ Games for the 2600 and the Galagun. I was so happy.
I've been playing those a lot. I picked up so many things at Portland that I'm still trying to work my way through all of them. I went a little nuts.
Have you picked up an Atari box yet to play Wizard of War?
I did. They didn't have them there at Portland. They said that they were still working on it at the time, but since then, they've come out. So I went ahead and I ordered one as soon as I saw them.
Oh, I did too.
That's really cool, but I was wondering, it doesn't, I didn't know this, but it doesn't put, if the game puts out voice, it doesn't put the voice out through the TV speaker. It's got like a little headphone jack on it.
Yes.
And what I did was I was going to patch it into the Atari. I wanted to get a kit to do the composite output.
Yeah.
And I could maybe mix the audio in with that. Is what I was hoping to do.
Yeah.
So I got the kit the other day in the mail, but I haven't had a chance to try to install it. So.
Oh, awesome.
But that should be cool once I get that going. But it does save the scores and everything.
Yep.
It's really cool. I like it a lot. Very neat.
Yeah, I do too. It's actually a pretty good port. Champ Games has been doing some really cool stuff.
Yes, they have. I know they got Zookeeper in the works too.
We just need to get him convinced to write some games for the 5200.
Yeah. I can't imagine what he could do on the 5200. My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that Zookeeper looks really good.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I love Zookeeper. That was a favorite one.
Well, I've been a busy little soul since the last time we've recorded. I picked up one of those 3D printed 5200 controllers that Herb Schallinger has been putting out.
Oh, right, yeah.
David from the 5200 podcast, he sent me the circuit board, what goes inside. So I went ahead and bought the 3D printed handle and got the buttons and stuff from Herb, and I built up my little 5200 controller with the analog thumbstick and everything. And man, that thing works good.
Oh, good.
I'm pretty impressed with
it.
It's actually a really good controller for the 5200.
Yeah, I picked one of those up too, Willie.
Oh yeah. And of course, to play Tempest, I modded my trackball to have a spinner on it, so I could play Tempest the proper way. And Matt's still beating my score. I'm like, man, I even tried cheating and I can't beat him. It's like rats. But yeah, I modded my trackball controller to have a spinner. It was really easy to do. But coming up here in the near future, Ed from Atlantic Controllers, he's making a dedicated controller for the 5200 that's going to have a paddle and spinner mode on it. Plus, it's going to have the ability to use your original overlays over the keypad. And it's going to have a self-centering analog stick on it as well. So
yeah, I think that's the thing to get. They had a bunch of his controllers set up at Portland, and I got to try. I mean, the 2600 ones, and they're arcade quality. So
yes,
I'm looking forward to trying what he did with 52.
Yeah, when he finally gets this released, this is going to be the controller you're going to want to get for the 5200.
Yeah,
in all seriousness, because it's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to it.
Does he have a time frame on that?
I'm not for sure. I know he was showing the circuit board not too long ago, so I think he's quite a ways down the line for it. So hopefully, I have to keep checking his page on edladden.com. He puts updates on there quite a bit on what the status of these different projects are. But that's one thing I'm definitely watching. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a must buy.
Because using the spinner, man, playing Super Breakout is really nice with the spinner. Playing pole position is pretty good with the spinner as well. I discovered, besides Tempest, which I still can't beat Matt's score. I tried, man. I played that freaking game for 3 hours straight. I could not beat his score.
Well, I couldn't beat it myself today. I must have gotten rusty or something. I don't know. I couldn't do very well today when I played it.
So let's get into Tempest, the arcade game. So take it away, Matt.
Well, alrighty. The arcade game came out in 1981. It's designed by David Thurer, who also did Missile Command for Atari about the year before. So it's a very well-known game, very innovative. It was the first game to use color vector monitor. They had used vector graphics in games before, like Asteroids, but this one has full color. So they called it the Quadra-Scan monitor. It was a pretty striking look to it. I think if you've ever seen the game in the arcade, the cabinet's this angular.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful cabinet. Most of the Atari cabinets they're all unique and different. They didn't do the cookie cutter thing. They were all unique. And you'll know a Tempest cabinet you see them. So, but at any rate, it's classified today as like a tube shooter. And basically, it's just I think of the playfield almost like a sheet of paper that's kind of been wrapped into a cone, and the tip of the cone is pointed into the screen, and the open end of the cone is pointed out towards the player. And these little bad guys start out in the center of that tube far away from you, and then they crawl up the tube towards the player. And the tube's kind of divided in these little sections or lanes. And your blaster goes around the outside of the tube, on the edge of it, and fires down into it, and tries to take out the baddies before they get to the outside and get you. It's got 16 unique little shapes of the tube. It's not always really a tube. Sometimes it's more like a sheet that's just stretched out across, or like a stair step, or I think there's one that looks like a W. There's a bunch of unique shapes. And there's 6, 7, or 8 different enemy types. Let's see.
Yeah, we have like the tankers.
There's tankers that are like square little guys that just move down the lane towards the player, and they don't really do much on their own. But if you shoot them, or if they reach the edge of the playfield, they'll turn into 2 flippers, which are these red bow tie looking things. You'll see a lot of those. Those are very common. There's tons of them, especially in later levels. And they just sort of flip end over end, bouncing from lane to lane. They slowly come towards you, so you got to take them out. If they reach the end, they're a real pain, because then they just come towards you. Unless you're really lucky, you're probably not going to get them at that point. And there's spikers, which are these swirly-looking green things that come down the lane towards you. And they don't do much by themselves either, kind of like the tankers. But what they do is they leave a trail of spikes behind them. And what the spikes do is, when the level's over, you sort of rush down the lane towards the center of the screen, and like you're warping to the next level. And if you run over a spike that's been left in the lane, that'll destroy you. And the game will flash up a message like, beware spikes. And it's a good idea to basically hold down the fire button when you're going to multiple levels, so you can try to blast the spikes if there's any left over. And a little bit later on, once you're a few levels in, you'll start to see spinners. These look like little flowers. They just kind of fire out of the lane at you pretty quickly. So you gotta kind of dodge them or shoot them pretty quickly, or they'll get you. There's fuse balls, which they don't show up until a bit later on. And they're kind of tricky. They dodge and they dart from lane to lane. They're a real pain. And finally, there's pulsars, which are they look like little jagged lines. And what they can do is they can short circuit a lane, and it'll make the whole lane flash. And if you're in the lane when they do that, it destroys you. And if they short circuit it, it sort of breaks it. Like the edge of the playfield will have a gap, and you can't move across it anymore once they do that. So you have to watch out for that, because it kind of limit your play area. It can really bog you down. So it basically keeps advancing from level to level. It's faster as it goes, and the level's backgrounds will actually change color. I think once you make the first 16 or so, whatever, it changes the background from.
No, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, right. I didn't see much of that either. I think maybe I did it once or twice. But I watched some YouTube videos of it, and it starts to change the color of the enemies on the board as well. Your only weapon as a blaster is just to shoot, but you do also get a super zapper, which will destroy everything on the board all at once. You get to use that once per board. And there's actually a little trick to it as well. If you use the super zapper, try to use it twice per board. The second time it won't destroy everything, but it'll destroy one random enemy. So it can kind of make the difference. Like maybe if you've got a flipper on the edge of the board or something that's coming at you, you can use that super zapper one more time and maybe knock him out. And it'll recharge that every time you clear a level. It's definitely a classic game. It didn't get a lot of ports back when it was new, because I don't really think most systems could really handle it. I know they made one for the 2600, but it never got released. And now you can play the prototype version of it, and it's probably for the best that one didn't get released. It's not great. It's not too impressive.
No, I remember seeing the boxes in Cloak and Dagger.
Yes,
in that one store, you can see the Tempest for 5,200, 2,600 in the box sitting there in the movie. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I know that Atari planned on releasing it, and they did the prototype. And the gamers had wondered about it for years and years because of that movie. And the prototype didn't really surface until 1999. It wasn't finished, but the community sort of got together and convinced the programmer to finish it. So now they have the cartridge available, a finished version of it available on the AtariCade store, and I think it's well worth getting. It's pretty impressive port.
It's definitely a must-have game for your 5200.
Yes, especially if you have a trackball, at least. And like you said, if you're willing to make a spinner like Willie did, then that would really kick it up another notch for sure.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So,
now, did the original programmer work off of the prototype, or did he redo it from scratch?
I'm not sure. It says he finished it, is the only thing I found online, so I get the impression that maybe he did keep his prototype code, but if you played the prototype, it's not very far along at all.
No, not at all.
It draws a level, and there's no collision detection. I don't think there's too many enemy types in it.
It's just impressive. I mean, I'm a developer, and it's just impressive to go back to work that you did 35 plus years ago and be able to finish it. How much he probably had to relearn.
Oh, yeah, sure. I know he had some help. There was Dennis Deborah worked on it. I mean, Keithan Hayenga is the original programmer. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I know he got some assistance from Dennis Deborah, Ken Van Mersbergen, and Michael Posaka. So he might have had some help from people that had kind of stayed in the game on the Atari and are still familiar with it. I'm not sure.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an impressive job compared to the prototype, that's for sure.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So, what was your first experience with the arcade version of Tempest, Matt?
I know I saw it it was pretty popular, and I know most of the arcades I went to had one, and I was absolutely mesmerized by it. I was a little afraid to play it because I would get wiped out so quickly. It's a tough game. It's a tough game. It's relentless, but I loved it. It's so cool, and it's so easy to understand and unique. I mean, Atari was so innovative back then. Every game they came out with was something really new, really original, and I just loved it. There's nothing else really like it.
How about you, Michael?
I definitely played this in the 80s in the arcades. I liked it, but again, I wasn't very good at it. So I only had limited quarters back then. So I didn't want to dump too many because I would last if I could get past the first wave or two, that was pretty good for me.
So you were a very thrifty arcader back then.
When you back then I relied on my parents for arcade money. I'd probably get like $2 or so. So you had to spend wisely.
Yeah.
And but I remember when MAME started getting popular.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing this, and the girl I was dating at the time, and this is back in mid '90s, I guess. And the first thing she asked is, "Oh, do you have Tempest? Do you have Tempest?" The only game she wanted to play was Tempest, so she was a big Tempest fan. When I was building my MAME cabinet, I actually had Tempest in mind, so I put a spinner on that right away.
Oh yeah.
And that plays great. And then I picked up a 1-up. The Asteroid Centipede, the 12-in-1.
Yeah.
And put Glenn's RetroCade spinner.
Yeah, it's a great spinner, man.
Oh, it plays great.
Yeah, that spinner's phenomenal.
And that's the game I really bought it for. I mean, that and Major Havoc.
Yeah, I almost picked up that myself just to get Tempest.
Yeah, that's the one of those that one and the Star Wars one that really caught my eye the most.
I did pick up the Star Wars as well. That's really cool.
I love my Star Wars one.
Yeah, Willie's lucky duck. He's got one.
Oh yeah.
But now when I go to the arcades, I do look for a Tempest machine.
Well, they're easy to spot.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, they are.
And I do much better now. I'm still not a great player, but I do much better, and I just love the game. It's definitely a go-to for me.
Awesome. How about you, Lush?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so my story is similar to Michael's. I think it was intimidating. I wasn't very good at it in the arcades. I remember seeing it in the arcades for sure, and I remember playing it back then. But I probably didn't put more than a couple of quarters into it at a time because I would die so quickly. I mean, it's a tough game. But now since then, in terms of my experiences with it, my main cabinet is actually shaped a little bit. It's kind of inspired by the cab shape of the Tempest. It's got the same kind of angular shape to it. That seemed to be like a nice shape that I stuck with there when I made my main cab. But I'm terrible at this game, like just in general. And honestly, I can't even get a lot of good practice on my main cab with it, unfortunately, because I have a spinner panel for my main cab, but it is it's for Tron, like the Tron spinner.
Okay.
And it's actually an original Discs of Tron spinner from an arcade machine that I got years and years ago. So it's got the push up and down as well as the spin.
Yes.
Which is a really cool control, and but it is heavy. Like it's not a good fit for spinning around quick like you need to do with Tempest. It's kind of sluggish when you try to spin it, which is good for fine control that you need for Discitron, but not so good for something like Tempest. And I keep swearing I'm going to get some spinners and make a dual spinner panel that I can put on my main cab, but I just never get around to it. So unfortunately, I can't really get a lot of practice in on Tempest and try to get better at it. So yeah, I'm not good at it, but it is great. Everything's been said. It's a great game, distinctive game. I wish I were better at it, but I didn't do well on the arcade, and I didn't do well on this 5200 board either. So we'll find out later.
Well, I remember when I first saw Tempest, that color vector monitor just totally captivated me. I love the Tempest game, so much so that I picked up one of those little AtariCade mini Tempest machines, which is a really cool thing as well. The one Tempest machine that I've not seen that I would love to get a hold of is the cocktail table version of it.
I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them, and I would love to get a cocktail table version of Tempest. I'll make room for that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's such a great arcade game. A lot of fun.
Hey, Willie, before we transition, I did want to mention, as the Intellivision guy on here, the Intellivision game Vectron was trying to be a Tempest-like game. It was trying to take the abstractness that is Tempest and do something kind of similar with it on the Intellivision. And that game is also ridiculously hard, and I stink at it, just like. But it's but yeah, it's when you read the write-ups on it from Intellivision websites and stuff like that, they always reference it. They knew they couldn't do Tempest, but can we do something that's in that same abstract world? And it does have that kind of run around the edge of the perimeter of a shape kind of thing going on with it, and you shoot things and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not in the same vein with the other ports of Tempest, but it's kind of another oddball thing there.
Yeah, I used to play a game called Livewire on my Atari 8-bit. That was like a copy of Tempest quite a bit. That was a pretty fun game. Giving my Tempest fix using that. And not too long ago, I picked up Tempest Extreme from Video 61 for the Atari 8-bit, where you can use a driving controller as a spinner. And it works really, really well on the 8-bit.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, now let's talk about the actual port of the game to the 5200. We're going to start off by talking about the box. Now, give me a second here, guys. I got to get set up. because I'm making a little video to put into the other video. As I talk about the box, the people can see what I'm talking about.
Very good. I got the cart only, so I haven't even seen the box. So
yeah, I haven't even seen the box.
Picture.
Well, if you would actually go to the 5200 Super Community page, you would see pictures of this stuff.
Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Shame on the podcast.
That podcast shaming. That's what I like to do. All right. So, the box. It is a incredible looking box. It's got I don't know who did the artwork on the box, but it looks really cool. On the back, it shows a screenshot of the game. 96 challenging levels. And I like this one entry on the back of the box. It's 30 years late. I love that. It's so cool. But, I got to thank David, again, for 5200 Podcast. He sent me a box for my Tempest. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's in pretty good shape. I'm pretty happy with it. Now, the cartridge itself, has a nice little label on there. It has the same artwork as the box does. It's a typical 5200 cartridge. Where it really shines is the instruction manual. It's a full-color manual. You know how I love full-color manuals. It's got that great artwork on the front. Talks about the game itself. Has a little history in here. Talks about playfield of enemies. Nice big 2-page indicator here showing all the different enemies and stuff. Has a nice history section and talks about the restoration project on the 5200. It's actually a really cool little manual to read through. It's pretty awesome. Now, the game is still for sale on AtariCade. I don't think you can get it in the box anymore. I think you just get the cartridge and the instruction book. But if you want to get this game, you can still get it fairly easily off of AtariCade. What versions do you guys have? Do you guys have any in the box, or?
I just got the cartridge. I don't even know if I got a manual with it. I'm sure I must have.
Oh, you were robbed. Albert!
I really don't remember getting one. I think I even looked around at my stuff, but maybe not.
Well, let's talk about the 5200 conversion. What was your first impressions when you played the 5200 port, Matt?
I'm super impressed with it. Overall, it plays just like the arcade game. I'm impressed that they got all the enemies in there. They didn't miss any of that. The control with a trackball at least is really good. It's not terrible with a 5200 joystick, but this is one you really want a trackball, or if you can make a spinner to use with it. And if you're thinking of trying a digital controller with a Master Play clone or something, don't bother because it won't work. But it plays really well. I think he did the zoom in, zoom out effect with the boards in a very clever way. It's got all the challenge of the arcade game. All the sounds are spot on.
Oh yeah.
And I'm very happy with it. My only minor complaint about it would be that when it's game over, it just very abruptly jumps right back to the level select screen. There's no There's no flowing up or any of the little flashy thing or anything. It just very abruptly ends. That's an issue, but I kind of wish it had done something like a game over screen or something.
How about you, Michael? What were your first impressions of the game?
When I first started up, I was very impressed with the graphics because, again, I was the port I played the last one I tried was the 2600 version, which was really unplayable. So I was really shocked how good this looks and how well it plays. Now, unfortunately, I'm having some issues with my trackball, so I just had to use the standard 5200 stick.
Oof.
So it was a little tough. And this does seem a little harder than the arcade, just in general. Maybe that's because I'm used to the spinner control. But I think it plays very well. I think, as Matt said, the sounds are spot on. I could get to about the fourth wave.
Oh.
And fourth or fifth, I don't remember. I tried some of the more challenging levels to start off on.
Yep, I did that.
And yeah, it's just very impressive. He did a great job on this, and definitely worth adding it to the collection.
How about you, Rick? What were your first impressions of this game?
Yeah, I mean, like what everybody said so far, the graphics are great. It looks like Tempest. You get into it, and it's pretty impressive. That, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not vector, but it's a pretty good version given the resolution of the 5200. So it definitely looks like Tempest. The only issues I had with it, like I did start trying to play it with the standard controller, the shift controller, the analog stick, and like you can do it, but it's definitely reading that stick for you throw the stick further, your guy goes faster.
Yeah.
And so for me, I found I just couldn't control very well if I was using what I considered like a normal movement of the joystick. So I had to get really used to just really tiny, right in the center, tiny bits of throw on the stick to maneuver around and kind of when I play Tempest, a lot of times I'm like there's an enemy I'm trying to hit, and I will like swing back and forth over the enemy to try to get him a shot down the tube where he's at. And trying to do that with the stick was very difficult. I found. I did switch to the trackball, and that was a ton better. And I got a lot more control, and I could totally see the advantage of making putting a spinner on that sucker. So that is something I'd like to do, but I just haven't gotten around to yet. So it controls all. You can tell the control is there if you have the right controller. You know what I mean? Like the standard stick is just going to be a little bit difficult to dial in what you want. In terms, because the graphical resolution of the 5200 and it's not vector, I did have some trouble identifying things that were coming up out of things.
Yeah.
In particular, avoid spikes filled me with panic because
where are they, man?
Like the spikes are green, and the blue of the playfield and the green of the spikes is not too far different from each other. I was like, are there spikes everywhere, or are there no spikes? I couldn't tell. So yeah, that was a little bit of an issue. But again, you're dealing with the resolution you're dealing with. And the other thing I noticed was like, I swear I have played Tempest in the arcade. This shows you how little clued in I am about this game. It will fire like little shots at you out of the tube, depending on where you're at, and those come up at you. When they come up on the 5200, they're a good bit larger in comparison to the scaling around you, I guess, right? And I was like, wait a minute, what are those things? I don't think I've ever paid attention to them in the arcade when I played it, because they're so tiny in the arcade, you're kind of whipping around, and if you shoot them, they go away. And so they've never really entered into gameplay for me before, but I was like, did they add these to the 5200 port? What is this thing coming up at me? And then I, played looked at a YouTube video of someone playing it, and I was like, oh, this has been there all the time. That's what that other noise is. I'm firing, and there's this barrel kind of sound that's coming at me. Okay. I just never really knew that was happening in the arcade because it's so tiny. But it was kind of fat, in the 5200 graphics. So yeah, the control issue with the stick is something for sure, but like obviously the game is there to be controlled well if you have a good controller. So yeah, I enjoyed playing it. The other thing I guess I would say about it, the sounds on it seem like they sound great. They sound like the arcade machine, but they also sound like they're a little sparse compared to arcade. Like it's a little less soundy, if that a little less sounds going on than used to. I'm not sure what that is. I didn't play enough and compare enough to the arcade to kind of figure out what might be different there. But it's so. I mean, it sounds like when you fire, it sounds like a firing. When they when those stupid bow ties grab you and suck you down the tunnel, it sounds like the one in the arcade. And there's the swoosh effect going in as it zooms you into the next level is pretty good. But at the same time, it seemed a little sparse in the sound compared to the arcade. But yeah, other than that, it's a ton of fun. If you like Tempest and you got a 5200, clearly this is a must get because it's a very well done port.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. When I saw this go up for sale on Atari Age, I bought it really fast. I remember it was advertised, I think, at the Portland Richard Gaming Expo. They had it set up out there before it went for sale, and I was chomping at the bit to get a hold of one of these. Yeah. Absolutely love the game on the 5200. I play it quite a bit, actually. Even though I can't get a very good score at it.
Yeah, well, that's my problem, too.
I still enjoy playing it quite a bit. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, oh yeah, and 5 being, what do you rate this game, Matt?
I'd call it a 1. If you've got a 5200, you need this in the collection. It's a must-have.
How about you, Michael?
Because I couldn't play with a trackball, I can't give it a 1. Maybe if I could, I would bump it up, but it's definitely a 2 for me.
How about you, Rick?
Yeah, it's a 1 or a 2, and the only reason I would drop it to a 2 is just because I stink at it. Like there's an element of playing it where I'm bad that I'm kind of like, I don't think I'm not having so much fun. But it's I don't know if I don't think I should blame the game for that per se. So maybe it's a 1.
Well, I pretty much give it a 2 because of what you mentioned, the sounds and such. However, once you play with the spinner, it becomes a 1.
Yeah, I believe that.
Oh, yeah. So definitely a must-have game for your 5200 collection. So, who picked the game last time for the next episode? I think it was... Did Matt pick last time? Did you pick Tempest, Matt?
I can't honestly remember. I can't remember what happened last week. Never mind October.
I know we were going to do Montezuma's Revenge. We never got to it.
That's what we need to do next. Okay,
we need to do that. That's a good game. We need to do that.
So yeah, let's start playing Montezuma's Revenge, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months we'll record that one.
Right.
That's if we keep Rick sober.
Oh my goodness. I'm fine, Willie. I'm fine.
How times have changed. Usually I'm the drunk one.
I tell everybody I'm drinking a little rum, and all of a sudden I'm the drunk. I can't believe it.
You're such a lush.
Mm-hmm.
The first step is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to admit Willie has a problem. How about that?
I have a problem. So until next time, everyone, keep on playing at 5200.
Hello.
Hello to all. We're being attacked from Mars.
Holy crap, we're just beating somebody up over there?
Yeah, well, I don't know what that was. I just got started into my right rum here, so.
Ooh. That sounds pretty good.
Oh, it's very good.
So good. So good. No,
it's worse.
Come from across the room and stand next to the mic.
Take the mic out of its packaging. Put it on the desk. Another sip of the old monk.
Old monk.
What's going on with this thing?
Yeah, your level's a little low and you're buzzy. A little buzzy.
That could be the liquor talking, Rick.
That's true. I'm not usually... I'll take your word for it, Willie. You're the guy who's familiar. Oh,
wow, echo. Now we're in a cave.
Podcast.
Hang on a minute.
I'm recording. Hold on a sec.
Do what?
What's the matter? I can't do anything about it. You don't want me to open your window. Okay, but I told you I was doing it. Guys, I'll be right back.
Okay, that's fine.